The PSSD started after taking the first pill, 30 minutes after the first pill.
Wow.
I don't even know how to describe it. It was like this heavy gray blanket just like came down and started suffocating everything. And the feelings that I had inside for the things that I enjoyed, it's like they were just so muted that I wasn't even sure that I had any feelings at all anymore. One of the most profound things that I noticed 30 minutes after I took the first pill was that it felt like my genitals were missing. First off, it makes it obvious to you that the physiological response to stimuli down there is totally different than like the feeling of wanting it in the inside. You think they're the same until you have a condition like ours, and all of a sudden you realize that they're different. So it's not just the physical act that you've lost; it's like the looking forward to it. Oh, I'm having a hard time in life, but I know what'll get me a pick me up. It's almost like the back burner part of sexuality is what I miss the most. I lost the ability to feel sleepy. Generally speaking, I can sleep, but I never feel sleepy or tired up here. I literally go to bed, close my eyes, and pretend. I saw 20 different doctors, urologists, endocrinologists, psychologists, psychiatrists, sex therapists, counselors, everyone. And every single one of them, Mark, every single one of them said that I was full of crap.
Hey, what is going on, guys? This is Mark Millick here with the Moral Medicine YouTube channel. So today we are going to be speaking to Benjamin. Benjamin is a PSSD patient that's had PSSD for, I think, going on about 15 years. Is that correct?
Almost 14 years, yeah.
14 years. I gotcha. Well, Benjamin, thank you so much for joining us, man. We appreciate you hopping on.
Yeah, thanks, Mark, and thanks for everything that Moral Medicine's doing for the community. I've learned so much about PSSD and PFS just doom scrolling else videos constantly. It's good stuff.
Right. Well, I'm glad it's helping people. That's great to hear, man. Thank you for that feedback. So, Benjamin, let's jump into your story here, man. Tell me, what was your life like before you got PSSD?
Yeah, so this was back in 2011. I was 27 at the time. I'm 40 now, so it's, PSSD was there for my entire 30s, which is a really sad thought for me because that's like when men are like, yeah. But anyway, before I loved the things that I loved. I loved video games, movies, fast cars, my career. All these things were. I remember how it felt. It had a very specific feeling whenever I thought about those things. And like I tell my wife, it was one of those things where it's like you wake up and you know three things. The sun's going to come out. Pat Sajak is hosting Wheel of Fortune. Joke about the recent thing. And number three was that I love sex.
Right. Yeah.
Those three things. Every day when I woke up, doesn't matter what happened that day. Those things, they were there.
Sure.
My sexuality was a part of my identity. Yeah. It was my love for sex and love for women and the female body was a core part of me. Yeah. And after I graduated college and got my first house and my first job and my first dog and got married and everything, I felt like something was missing, and I thought it was depression. I thought depression was trying to take all that joy away from me. So me and my twin brother, we both embarked on a journey to try some antidepressants. And we tried a couple of medicines. They didn't really seem to be helping. And then we both tried Cymbalta, and we took it for a month. We both got all the symptoms of PSSD. His alleviated when he stopped taking it, and mine didn't. And we both tapered off safely. For both of us, the PSSD started after taking the first pill, 30 minutes after the first pill.
Wow. So what was that like? You took the first pill, and I mean, what did you experience?
Golly. I don't even know how to describe it. It was like this heavy gray blanket just like came down and started suffocating everything. And it was like sucking the luster out of the universe. Yeah. And everything that was once beautiful is now like ashen. And the feelings that I had inside for the things that I enjoyed, it's like they were just so muted that I wasn't even sure that I had any feelings at all anymore.
Right.
But one of the most profound things that I noticed 30 minutes after I took the first pill was that it felt like my genitals were missing. And I know that that's there's all sorts of genital symptoms with PSSD and PFS and things, but it just felt neurologically like they were missing.
Right.
And that scared the crap out of me. And
Right.
I took it for a month because, whenever you ask the doctor, they're like, oh, you're starting an antidepressant. Of course that it's going to be weird in the beginning. So I took it, and I stopped taking it after a month because I was miserable, and it never went away.
Did it get worse when you came off, or did it just kind of sustain where it was at while you were taking it?
Some things have changed over time with my PSSD. So when I stopped taking the medicine, it definitely didn't get worse.
Yeah.
For the first 2 or 3 years, the brain fog was immeasurable.
Okay.
It was crippling,
okay.
and it was getting worse. It was getting worse and worse and worse.
Mm-hmm.
The emotional blunting, it started off really, really, really bad, but I would say that it's nearly gone now.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Okay.
Yeah,
You've had some improvements.
It took about 5 or 6 years, but something happened. Something.
Right.
It could just be, our brains are so plastic. It could be like neuroplasticity, and our brain's just retraining itself to finally learn how to do something.
Kind of readapting.
Yes,
right.
yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if that's what it was, but the emotional blunting up front, that blanket that was like, squashing the life out of everything, that's gone. And so that's one thing that's good. Also, interestingly enough, even in the beginning, I never had erectile dysfunction, and I thought that was very strange.
Sure.
Because first off, it makes it obvious to you that the physiological response to stimuli down there is totally different than like the feeling of wanting it in the inside.
Yeah, it's completely different. Exactly.
Yes, you think they're the same until you have a condition like ours, and all of a sudden you realize that they're different.
100%.
And
100%.
And thus explaining it to doctors and even loved ones and romantic partners, it's so difficult to be able to perform, but also be able to tell them that I don't really care if we do or not. Sure. It also don't have trouble reaching climax. Now, I don't feel anything when it happens. Yeah. It's so muted that I have to like look down and see if it happened.
Even to this day, you still have that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I did experience numbness in the beginning. The numbness dissipated after about 3 years, though. It's no longer numb, but it just feels like a finger. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
It feels like a finger.
Yep.
So the sexuality hasn't returned at all, but some of the other things have improved.
And I'm glad to hear that. PSSD, when you hear about that post-SSRI sexual dysfunction, it's almost kind of a misleading nomenclature because there's so many other symptoms outside of just the sexual issues as well. You mentioned the anhedonia and the brain fog and things like that. I mean, that in itself is crippling. But to have your libido just completely erased from your being, I mean, I don't think people realize how much your libido is connected to everything you do in life. At least for me, my libido was what it drove me to go accomplish things.
Yes, no, that's it. It all. I'm sure like Carl Jung has something to say about this, but it's like your libido is it's kind of like in the core of you, and lots of aspects of your personality for men and women, it branches off from that underlying sexuality.
Right.
And you just reminded me of something that I thought about the other day. I have some really great friends and family that helped me through this, and I was talking about it with them, and someone made a comment. I'm trying to empathize as much as I can, but like me and my partner don't have sex that often. Is it really that big of a deal? And I wasn't upset because it's a valid question, but I realized that whenever you're trying to explain this to other people and even reconcile it with yourself, sexuality is 80%, 90% of it. Having sex is only 10% of sexuality.
Sure. Yeah. That's interesting.
So not being able to have sex is just part of it. The other part of it is the other 90% is you don't want to have sex anymore.
Yeah.
So even So it's not just the physical act that you've lost. It's like the looking forward to it.
Right.
Oh, I'm having a hard time in life, but I know what'll get me a pick me up.
Right.
Yeah, wife, get over here before work and
Right.
and have a great day. Then can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. And so it's almost like the back burner part of sexuality is what I miss the most.
Yeah. I can actually completely understand what you're saying there. I mean, like I said, it's what drives you to sort of want to accomplish in life. I didn't realize, I mean, I've always been a driven individual, right? Like I wanted to be the best public speaker I could be. I wanted to be the best employee I could be at work. I wanted to get certifications for my industry. I wanted to bodybuild. I wanted to accomplish. And when you take away your sexuality, you kind of realize all that's sort of interconnected, and you kind of lose your drive for everything else that you want to pursue. And I guess that's, if you look at it from a biological standpoint, that kind of makes sense. We want to attract the opposite sex. We want to procreate. And when you lose that, you're losing this very just inherent biological need. It's horrifying to not have that any longer.
It is. It's also very difficult to explain the ramifications of it to other people.
Right.
Because it's one of those things where it's really hard to relate to that until you've experienced it, until you've had it pulled out from underneath you.
Right.
I've also had some other strange side effects. I haven't heard anyone else with our conditions talk about this, but I lost the ability to feel sleepy when I got PSSD.
I have that. Yep, I have that myself. I don't sleep anymore.
Okay. So what I'm specifically talking about is, I can sleep through the night relatively okay. I wake up every hour, but I can, generally speaking, I can sleep, but I never feel sleepy or tired up here. I literally go to bed, close my eyes, and pretend every time.
You don't really go to that deep REM sleep.
No,
right? You're almost dozing
no.
the entire night. That's what I feel like.
Yes. Yep.
And even last night, I got 2 hours of sleep, which is pretty typical for me. I woke up this morning, didn't feel tired, but I felt the effects of sleep deprivation. Just foggy and just not motivated. And even right now, I'm still in that state, but I don't feel tired. I don't feel, and I'll be up until 1 o'clock in the morning tonight. I will not feel tired when I go to bed at 1 o'clock. I'm just going to close my eyes and just, like you said, pretend and just doze. And that's horrible, man.
You're the first person that's known what I'm talking about. So it's really cathartic to hear you say that, because I try to explain it to people and they're like, well, if you're sleeping, you're sleeping. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. What's interesting is it's been so long now that it's just a distant memory of what feeling sleepy even felt like anymore. But I remember that the way it felt inside of me, there was like some overlap between that and wanting to have sex. Not directly, but kind of just like this Venn diagram overlap of that fuzzy feeling inside of you. All of that is gone. Any emotion or feeling that ever used that type of feeling is gone, and it's been gone ever since. I also had when I got PSSD, I got the first time I took Cymbalta, I got these blisters on my tongue and on the inside of my mouth, a severe allergic reaction to it. And now if I make any changes to any medicine that I take, over-the-counter stuff, supplements, anything that I take, if I take them 1 hour later than I'll normally do, or if I stop one or start one, blisters all on the inside of my mouth every time now. Yes.
Yeah,
that's in brain zaps. It's the electricity behind my eyes. It happens every single time. I can take my medicine 1 hour different from the previous day, and I know that night when I go to bed, it's going to be electricity central just all night.
You still feel the brain zaps even to this day if your circadian rhythm essentially with your routine is out of whack. Explain those a little bit. I mean, I talked about it before. They're horrible, aren't they? I mean, it's like literally getting shocked in your head.
Yeah, it's a very peculiar feeling. Mine feel a little bit different than how I've heard some people describe them.
Okay.
For me, it's very, very, very acutely centered behind my eyeballs. Okay. I can feel it behind my eyes. Sure. And whenever it happens, I can also hear it. It sounds kind of like a Morse code. It sounds kind of like that, and I can feel it behind my eyeballs. I can see it, with my eyes closed. You're seeing nothing. Whenever the brain zaps happen, I can see lightning shooting up through like the back of my eyelids. So I can see it and I can hear it also, and I can feel it.
Yeah.
And the only way to make them go away. This is crazy, but crazy is a new definition once you get our conditions.
Yeah.
If I stretch my eyes and just make them go like this and just stretch them as hard as I can, it'll make the brain zap stop for the rest of the day.
Interesting. Okay.
But they stay until I do that.
Yeah.
It's just strange,
it is
man.
crazy. And I want to go back real quick because you said you and your brother took this medication at the same time. You guys both developed PSSD symptoms, but yours persisted.
Yep.
When he came off, his went away, you said, right?
Yep.
That's a really interesting sort of notation there, you know?
Yeah. It was, he had Anhedonia, he had genital numbness, the like life looks different, the absolute erasure of your sex drive, the inability to feel orgasms, all that. He had that, but then he stopped taking it, and I think I want to say he said like after a week or two everything came back.
It's incredible, man. What I did to have that feeling back, just to be able to feel emotions again, to have that come back, it's it really is tremendous.
So something that's kind of hard for me to, what makes this a little complicated for me with the emotional stuff is, I was never a super emotional person to begin with. I'm a very analytical person. I'm autistic, so the analytical part of me is what leads all the time. The super just the absent-minded professor kind of persona. So I wasn't super emotional to begin with, but afterwards, there's definitely no emotions. But I'll say that I haven't suffered as much as other people have because I wasn't that emotional to begin with.
Well, that's the thing. This does make you very analytical and just very rational. The way you approach life, the way you approach, interactions and everything. It's just very, you lose your ability to connect. I mean, when I talk to my fiance now, I'm just very rational with my approach, and she wants emotions. She wants me to be emotional. And I used to be very much like that, but it's just, it takes, like you said, all the color. It mutes everything in life, and you're just approaching life in this very pragmatic way. And there's something fun about that. It's really horrendous,
Mark, this is fascinating that I've observed this in the videos that y'all have posted and some of the other channels. I feel like a lot of the people who have PSSD or PFS, they all approach speech and thinking about things in a very similar way now.
Sure.
And it's that analytical thing that you're talking about, where like you're forced to just go into like this problem solving mode that just never goes away.
Right.
And so I've noticed that, and I thought that was very interesting because there seems to be like a correlation between people who have it.
I would agree with that because, like, when I speak now, my tone is very flat. I don't really have any emotions. It doesn't like rise up or go low. It's just kind of just very, stagnant. And I honestly can't even change that. It's like I'm trying to speak, I'm trying to express emotion, but it's kind of just like, again, very pragmatic approach and just very rational way of thinking.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you this, Benjamin. Did you go to any clinicians about this? And if you did, what was your experience with that?
It was, imagine all the worst stories you've heard about doctors with PSSD and PFS. It was that. I saw 20 different doctors. You're all just endocrinologists, psychologists, psychiatrists, sex therapists, counselors, everyone. And every single one of them, Mark, every single one of them said that I was full of crap. And I even had some of them say, men naturally lose their libido as they age. And I'm like, I'm 28. What are you even talking about? Like that.
Yeah, man, you're in your late 20s. You're not losing your libido,
Sorry, one last thing.
No, go ahead, please.
My counselor introduced me to a doctor in Seattle. I cannot remember her name, unfortunately.
Sure.
But she was doing research into PSSD. And she was the first doctor I'd ever talked to who like knew what I was talking about. And that was a pivotal moment for me. It just felt amazing.
To get some validation for
yes.
That's really what, I mean, that would make me feel so much better, man, if a doctor just acknowledged this. And I have had doctors acknowledge my PFS, really only one in particular at Johns Hopkins Hospital.
Yeah, you got to go to some place like that where nobody's ever
top, man. I know. I went through probably 4 or 5 different doctors. I finally made my way to Johns Hopkins. And I had a dermatologist who said, hey, I believe you. She said, there's just nothing we can do for you right now. yeah, I mean, it at least gave me a little, not much, but a small sense of relief saying, okay, I've been validated, and
Yes.
that goes a long way with people.
It
Um,
really does.
yeah. So, yeah, you basically went to all these different doctors. They told you this was all in your head. They didn't
Yep.
validate you, and you were kind of left with nothing. And then I guess at what
Yes.
point did you start realizing that, like, I mean, did you make the connection at that point that the medication had caused all this, or did you
Oh,
start seeing like,
I knew immediately
yeah,
after I took the first pill.
yeah,
I mean, this is going to sound sensationalistic. I'm not exaggerating. When I took that first pill, it felt like I had been lobotomized. It felt like someone was sucking the matter out of my brain.
yeah,
I
yeah,
felt it happen. I
right,
felt the moment it happened.
yeah, yeah.
It was a singular moment, and I
And
was like,
this isn't uncommon either. I mean, there are
"Yeah,
people who take one pill of finasteride or
yes,
one SSRI, one pill, and within 30 minutes, they just change.
yep,
Something is just cut off in their body neurologically.
yep,
I don't know why that's so hard to believe either. It's almost like talking to somebody who has a peanut allergy. If they even just get
right,
exposed to small traces of
yep,
peanuts, it causes their body to go into anaphylactic shock and it can kill them.
right,
So
right,
why is it so hard to believe that people that have this predisposition can be exposed to one pill and it can cause their body to be damaged this way?
yeah,
Uh, yeah, whatever this sensitivity is or this predisposition is, I mean, this is real, obviously, and it's absolutely devastating.
yeah,
So let me ask you this too, Benjamin. You said your family's been pretty supportive over the years with you, right? You mind talking a little bit about that?
yeah." So it took me a long, long time before I shared this with anyone. I would essentially tell my brother, my twin brother, and my romantic partner, and that's it.
Okay.
I opened it up to some of my really close friends a few years back. That was a great idea.
Yeah.
I don't really share with my family outside of like my nuclear family
Yeah.
because it's it's so hard to explain, and I don't
Yeah.
feel
I
like
get
I'm
it.
going to get a lot of support there.
Sure.
I don't feel like I need that kind of support. What I
Right.
need is bro support, and I get a lot of that from my brother and my best friends.
That's great to hear, man.
So, it's something that I feel like this is relevant, and I was just reminded of it slightly off
Sure.
topic, but my sperm quality was so bad
Mhm.
for the past 10 years that I had to do procedures to have my first child, my daughter, and
Okay.
just the best thing that ever happened to me.
That's
And
beautiful to
now,
hear.
and now with my wife, we want a child together also, and my sperm quality was so low that I was infertile. It was that
Wow.
bad. And my testosterone was, 150, 200. I know there's a mild correlation of low T with people who have PSSD,
Yeah.
perhaps with PFS also. Well, listen to this. They gave me fertility drugs, and I took them for a year. My testosterone is now almost 1,000,
Yeah.
and I feel no different.
No change, right?
No change
No,
whatsoever. I
no
went
change.
from 150 testosterone to like 950 in 1 year, and I can't tell. The only difference I can tell is my voice is deeper,
Yeah.
and my facial hair is so coarse now that it, like, if I like kiss my wife, it gives her a rash. It's so sharp
Sure.
now.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the no change in sexual appetite, no change in like how I feel. It's I don't know what other proof you need that it's not hormonal or related to testosterone.
I think that is a phenomenal point to make right there because so many people want to attribute this to low testosterone. And
Yep.
you talk to a lot of these guys with PFS and PSSD, these guys have their testosterone on the upper end of the scale. I'm talking 950 up to
Yes.
1,000
Yep.
levels, right? And for me, mine, I think last time I checked, it was like 750. When I first crashed, it dropped a little bit and then it came back up, but I noticed zero difference when it went back up.
Yep.
I think that's such an important point to highlight because you would think if your testosterone levels are high, you're not going to feel these what you're feeling at this point. You're not
Right.
going to have this loss of sexuality. If anything, it's going to
Yes.
just really go up at that point, obviously,
Yep.
and your libido is going to skyrocket. So, no, I think it's great that you mentioned that point, Benjamin. So, if you don't mind me asking too, like, what are your current symptoms now? Where are you currently at with all this?
So I have no sexual feelings down there whatsoever.
Mhm.
Muted orgasms,
Yeah.
sometimes accidental orgasms,
Okay.
just like, oh, hey, there's stuff coming out. What? I mean, like without stimulus or anything.
Right.
That happens. I have a sensory processing delay. So if someone were to come to me and be like, "Yeah, you just go down here, take a left onto Main Street, and then go," by the time I said Main Street, my brain was like, "Okay, you're gonna have to stop and start over,
Slow down,
like 15 times before I get this."
Yep.
And I'm like, "Hey, Main Street. Okay,
Yep.
Jesus. Okay, I got it." And then left. Main Street. Left. Like it's just it's like there's a funnel going into my brain, and whenever it gets there, it's so small that only a little bit of information can come through at once.
I just want to, touch on that real quick. I have such a tough issue with that, because when I'm having to relay information that somebody tells me and give it down to my employees, it is the toughest thing in the world. Like my boss will say, "All right, go communicate this to the field guys, out in the field." It's okay, cool. I'll go do that. He tells me, I get out there. It's like, what do I need to say? How do I articulate this? It's really, it's terrible, man.
It is.
You just lose the ability to process any new information. Even when it comes to reading, I got to read over and over and over again when I'm reading a book to even process.
I'm so slow at reading now. Me and my wife were. I just did a test. She's a huge reader, and I'm like, I want to see how long it takes us to read a page in a book. I'm 4 times slower. I'm 4 times slower, and I have to reread things 3 or 4 times every time I do it.
Yep. Yeah, the processing issue is devastating in itself.
And and interestingly enough, that's gotten worse for me over time. That's one symptom of PSSD that's gotten worse the longer I've had it.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry to hear that, man. I can relate to you so much on that. Let me ask you this final question, Benjamin. So do you feel like you had any type of warning about any of this before you took the medication?
No, I was not even warned about the temporal side effects. Really? It was, "Oh, you say you're depressed. Oh, Cymbalta. Yeah, here you go."
Yeah.
How's that?
What's amazing too, how much they overprescribe these medications to people. If you go in to any doctor and you say you're dealing with, depression or any issues or anxiety, they're just going to throw these medications at you. I mean, when I went to a neurologist for PFS, before I even realized it was even PFS, the first thing they did was they tried to prescribe me Lexapro.
Yep.
And I was like, this isn't what this is. I'm having brain fog and speech issues, a speech impediment. It's not depression,
Yeah, no, it's not.
So they overprescribe so much. It's crazy.
I have this in me now. I will go to my grave. I refuse to let any of my children ever take any type of medicine like the ones that I've taken. I just won't. I won't, because if there's a genetic component to it,
right,
and even if there's not a genetic component to it, I will not let my children have even a 1% chance at this happening to them. And you know why.
Yeah, I've had the same conversation with my fiance at this point. When we have kids one day, they are not getting SSRIs for any friggin' reason whatsoever. Or benzodiazepines or anything. We're going to go through the natural route, and we're going to help them work through this in a more homeopathic way. But I do not want them taking pharmaceuticals at this point. So, completely hear you on that. Well, Benjamin, before we hop off here, man, do you have any closing statements or anything else you'd like to tell the audience?
Yeah, I would. I want to say to everyone out there that has PSSD and PFS, at least for me, surrounding myself with talking to other people that have it and watching videos of other people's experience of it and going on, joining the PSSD network and things like that have been more therapeutic and more cathartic than any therapy that I've did up until this point. It's to a point, like I told Mark earlier, whenever I think of PSS, whenever I see PSSD in the news now, I smile because I'm like, yes, man, it's finally time for people to know about this. So I was afraid to talk about it. I would push it aside and try to forget about it for 10 years. Yeah, and that wasn't getting me anywhere.
Right. Absolutely. Really well said there. And this is where, for me, I think my biggest fear with all this was feeling like my suffering was going to be meaningless. Right. When I went public, it's like I'm now leveraging this suffering and we're moving this issue forward. So I tell everyone, when you go public, it really is liberating. And that's the feedback I hear from them. Like, man, I'm really glad I did that. I told my story, and I'm now using my suffering to my advantage, and we're moving this forward with the hopes of one day, you know, finding a biomarker and then developing targeted therapeutics for this. I mean, that's why it's so important to share your story. So I really appreciate the fact that you mentioned that, man.
Absolutely.
So, well, Benjamin, thank you so much for hopping on, man. We really
Yeah.
appreciate it. And we will see everyone next time.
Cool. Thanks, Mark.